I'm
Yay,
pumped for the small
groups.
groups.
I'm so
I've been
excited.
waiting
I've been
like
waiting
all week for them.
week.
Small groups. Let's talk about that. Hey guys, this is Andrew with Advent Blueprint here for another Sabbath School short. And this week's lesson is lesson number 10, and it's titled An Exciting Way to Get Involved. Have you ever had a hard time trying to get involved in different things going on around you in your community or in your church or whatever it is? We've got a solution for you here in this lesson. Let's look at the memory text for this week. It's Matthew chapter 9, verse 37 and 38. It says, "Then he said to his disciples, 'The harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, pray to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest.'" And Sabbath afternoon's quote that I really like, it says this: "Throughout the Bible, small groups are highlighted as one of God's methods of strengthening our faith, increasing our knowledge of his word, deepening our prayer life, and equipping us to witness." Small groups is one of the avenues that God has chosen to witness and to evangelize. And I am very, very passionate about small groups. I love small groups, and I believe it is an area in our church that we could be doing a lot better at. Spirit-filled, life-changing small groups are one of the most effective ways to reach our community. So let's dive into this topic and learn more about that, starting off on Sunday's lesson, which is titled Small Groups, God's Idea First. And the quote that I really like there, it says, "Small groups may have multiple purposes that we will study in this week's lesson, but their overriding purpose is to focus on winning lost people to Jesus. That is, by working in small groups, we can help not ourselves alone, but others as well. That is, the ultimate goal of our small groups should be soul winning." Guys, this is the reason why small groups should exist in the church. This is the reason why we should do small groups. It's not just about feeding the people already in the church. It's about bringing lost people into the church in a very effective and sometimes maybe even less scary way. Sometimes it's scary for people to enter into the doors of a church and be in that environment, but small groups is a lot easier of a way to invite people in and bring people in. It's kind of a good first stepping stone to evangelize and bring people into the church, bring people into the good gospel message is through small groups. So let's unpack that idea a little bit. Let's look at Monday's lesson. I actually combined Monday and Wednesday's lesson because both these lessons give different examples of small groups that are in the Bible. Monday kind of focuses on small groups in Scripture, and Wednesday focuses on the New Testament and kind of the during Acts when the church was exploding. And how the church was basically run by small groups, and that's why the church was exploding. But the quote that I really like from Monday's lesson, it says, "The Bible provides numerous examples of small groups, praying, fellowshipping, encouraging one another, and laboring together for Christ. These groups give God's people the opportunity to share responsibilities and fully utilize their varied gifts. That is, small groups also can provide the opportunity for the Lord to use each of us more fully." Small groups give the opportunity for us and to use our spiritual gifts, for us to connect with people and to use our spiritual gifts in a very powerful and mighty way. And in Monday's lesson, it lists several different examples in the Bible, and I encourage you to go look at those examples and see what you yourself can gain from them as you read those stories, as you study them. See what God is telling you to pull out of those different examples. And Wednesday's lesson, which is New Testament small groups, the quote that I really like from there, it says, "One of the contributing factors for the rapid growth of the New Testament church was its small group organizational structure." Small groups made a difference. When you think about the New Testament church, a lot of these churches, a lot of these places were meeting in homes. Each home was almost a small group where people were talking about Jesus and talking about what he means to them and talking about the good gospel message that they're freed sons and daughters of God. And they were discussing and having these spirit-filled conversations in small groups. And kind of the point I think these two lessons try to bring out is that the Bible is full of times when small groups were established for a reason. And I think today we need to be having small groups as an evangelistic tool to bring people into the church in a non-threatening and a very loving way. let's jump over to Tuesday's lesson that talks about organized for service. That's the lesson title. And it talks about how we can be organized with our small groups. And the quote that I really like in Tuesday's lesson, it says this: "All this tells us something about the environment in which we can best use our spiritual gifts. It is so easy to get discouraged when we function alone, but when we are part of a small group of people with similar interests and goals, we find that our efforts can be much better focused and greatly magnified. So, small groups provide the best environment to exercise our spiritual gifts and can become the heart of a local congregation's outreach ministry." Don't miss that last part. I love that last part. Can become the heart of a local congregation's outreach ministry. And I believe that small groups need to be the heartbeat of church, need to be the heartbeat of what we do. And this will cause the church, this will cause the good gospel message to be spread like none other. It will cause it to rapidly expand and rapidly grow. As a young adult, as someone who's grown up in the church and everything, I wish that I had a better experience with small groups. I would have felt like I had a place to belong. I would have felt like I had a place to really share my thoughts, my ideas, and small groups provide that opportunity, especially for people of my generation, for young adults, to come together and to talk about these ideas, and for any generation. It's just a really great way to do that. And I've always kind of had a vision for the church of the church needs to be run off of small groups. And where each person in the church is somehow connected to a small group. The pastor and his elders are a small group, and each elder leads a small group where they have people that also lead small groups. And this kind of this branch down of people in small groups connecting outside of church and throughout the week, just connecting together and sharing the gospel message and bringing other people, inviting other people into their small groups so that they also can be an evangelistic tool. Another thought that comes to mind with Tuesday's lesson, how it talks about organized for service, is that small groups is an amazing tool that we can use to make sure that the people we baptize into our church get plugged in somewhere. Far too many times I have seen people be baptized and then dropped off. Like, that's the end. Like, all right, we got them baptized, good. Now they're here, they're not going to leave, and then we kind of just drop them off the cliff almost. But small groups is a really great way for us to get those baptized people plugged into the church, plugged in to have meaningful conversations with people, plugged into a ministry, plugged into a place where they can truly belong. And if they have a place that they can truly belong and feel loved, I promise you, they're not going to leave. And so small groups is an amazing way that we can use and put into the structure of our church to keep those baptized people here with us, with the meaningful conversations, with the love of Christ, and just being with us in those small groups. And part of this too, which is what Thursday's lesson brings out, which is called small group dynamics, is that if you have a bunch of these small groups, they all can be doing different things because each one of us is wired differently. Each one of us is made differently. And with all these different small groups going on and all these different small groups going, they can each be doing different things. One can be an activity-based small group where you go out and hike together and then have a devotional thought at the end. Or you go mountain biking together and have a devotional thought at the end or the beginning, or whatever it is. You could be journeying through a book of the Bible together. You could be going through a book together about how to better yourself, how to better your relationship with Jesus, how to love people better. You can do so many different things with small groups. And one of the quotes that I really like from Thursday's lesson, it says, "The focus of all effective small groups is witness and service. Small group ministry will soon die out if its focus is inward and not outward. If the small group becomes self-serving and little more than a discussion group, it will fail in its purpose and lose the vital reason for its existence. Small groups exist to lead people to Jesus, nurture their faith in Jesus, and equip them to witness for Jesus." We do small groups to evangelize, to bring people in. And if we have a dynamic group of different kinds of small groups, we will be able to reach a dynamic group of people who have different interests, who have different abilities, and we can plug those in. We can have a small group for each person we come in contact with if we keep this dynamic thing going on. If we have a lot of small groups, a lot of life groups is another good term that I really like, going on within the church, and we can plug people into those different small groups and life groups so they have a meaningful walk with Christ and have meaningful connections with other people so they will have a sense of belonging. And Friday's lesson, which is the further thought section that kind of wraps it up, I encourage you to go read that. There's a really cool story about a European church that was dying and how they started to incorporate small groups into their church, and the church started rapidly growing and getting bigger and bigger. And soon they were baptizing people left and right. They had 17 baptisms, the lesson brings out. I encourage you to go read that and to discover that story and to read that story and see how the power of small groups and what it can do in our lives and in other people's lives. And as I was reading Friday's story there that it brings out about that European church and how they started small groups and it grew really fast, it made me think of too those, maybe you're one of those people that's so scared to do evangelism, but small groups is such a great way to just start evangelism in a really non-scary way. Just invite some of your friends that you already know and bring socializing and talking about God into the same place. And let those conversations about God happen between just you and your friends. And then you can watch that small group kind of just grow as the Spirit leads you in that small group. And so I'd encourage you that if you're one of those people that doesn't want to go knock on doors or go out into a third world country and do some crazy service project and evangelize, just start a small group with the people around you. Start a small group with your friends and watch God work through that journey that you'll take. Hope you guys enjoyed this week's Sabbath School Shorts. As always, we'd love to have a conversation with you. So please drop down in the comments below and tell us about your story with small groups. Whether it be you're in one, you're looking for one, you want to start one, whatever that is, comment that below and we'd love to talk with you. Hope to see you guys here next week.